And joining us now is Congressman André Carson. The congressman has been representing the people of Indiana's 7th District since being elected in 2008. Congressman Carson serves as many roles in the House, and including as a member of the Financial Services Committee. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
First, though, I want to talk about the tragic news that we had on Friday. We'll get to the fiscal cliff in just a moment. What are your thoughts? What do we need to do to make our schools safer?
Well, I think we seriously need to look at increasing our police presence at schools.
Really?
We need to also address issues of gun control, and this is not a time to politicize this issue. But I think even more importantly, we have to address mental health issues in this country.
Do you think this is something that the House will look at this coming year?
Certainly, absolutely. Absolutely. I just had a bill passed last year and signed by President Obama that deals specifically with mental health in our military. And we want to make it a more expansive effort for all Americans.
And you were telling me your wife is a principal at a school. Does she talk to you about some of the issues they face, some of the safety issues? Oh,
certainly, all the time, with hostility from parents or ex-spouses or even boyfriends and such and such. And so they always have security issues. But thankfully, Pike Township has a great security system.
All right, well, we'll be talking to you more about that.
Absolutely.
But now we'll head over and talk about that fiscal cliff. It is a huge concern. Do you see yourself booking a plane ticket to Washington, D.C. between now and the end of the year to vote on a plan?
It looks like we will reconvene on Monday, and I'll be heading out there on Monday. Look, if we fail to address the fiscal cliff matter, we're going to see huge cuts in unemployment benefits. We're going to see cuts with our defense budget. Some are good cuts, but many of these cuts will affect Hoosiers. We're looking at over 800 Hoosiers who will be laid off at Raytheon and Rolls-Royce. We're looking at cuts to Pell Grant programs for our college students, and we're looking at serious cuts in hunger prevention. So it's a serious issue that must be addressed. This is not a time to make political statements.
Yeah, and time is running out. There's a real sense of urgency among the American people and a real frustration with Congress. Do you feel your peers on both sides are feeling that same amount of urgency, and are they acting on it?
Oh, sure. A lot of my Republican colleagues really want to deal with these issues because these issues impact their constituents. Unfortunately, they're having to toe the party line and keep their mouths shut. But we're asking them to come over with the rest of us so we can join together. And, folks are tired of the political theater. We had enough of it this past election year. And let's really solve some problems for the American people.
Do you feel, is there more of an attitude of compromise, or people are sticking to their party lines?
Well, at least publicly they're sticking to their party lines. Privately, folks are grumbling. They're ready to get out of there, and they're ready to solve this issue. Because if not, 2014 will be a referendum year for all members of Congress.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, getting down to the numbers last year, the U.S. spent $3.6 trillion and only took in $2.3 trillion in revenue. So simply raising taxes on the rich isn't going to solve that gap. So what do you feel are the top priorities where we need to cut spending?
Well, I think we need to seriously look at our war effort. If we collapse the war effort, we've already invested over $1 trillion. We could get those monies back into our U.S. Treasury. We should look at selling off some of our unused federal assets. And I think the entitlement discussion needs to be pushed into next year where we can take this to the full committee process and really debate the issue and look at the issue in a proper way. We know that Medicare will be insolvent in about 12 years, but we can't rush this thing through because it's so critical. And I refuse to vote on anything that raises the retirement age for citizens, senior citizens.
Some of those topics you just mentioned, are your colleagues receptive to that as well?
Oh, certainly. Look, we need to make some serious cuts in certain areas. We certainly need to deal with fraud and abuse that exists in the system. But having said that, we can't politicize this issue and try to stuff everything in here while still hurting the American people. We're looking at not having food stamps or SNAP on the table right now due to our economic depression and recession. A lot of Hoosiers will be impacted, from Marion County to Clinton County to Vigo County to Lake County.
Yeah, people all over the country.
Absolutely. This is universal.
Right.
Yeah.
So Republicans, though, are arguing that raising taxes on the rich will have a negative effect on the economy, and no one wants to have a negative effect on the economy, really. So do you think this would happen if you raise taxes on the rich, that they won't spend, that they'll have to lay off employees?
If we raise taxes, as we should, on the top 2%, the middle-class American family, the average middle-class American family will save over $2,200 a year.
So why don't you believe the argument that Speaker Boehner is making?
Well, I think Speaker Boehner is a good Midwesterner. I like him personally. We hung out last year at a Christmas party, but that's another subject. I like him personally. I think he's speaking to his base. And unfortunately, as I said before, we have to be more authentic. We can't do this to try to hinder the president and prevent him from getting any success. We have to be honest with the American people and come to a resolution and stop the game playing.
So you think he's playing a game by saying that?
I think that he's well-intentioned in some areas, but in other areas, I think he knows internally, if I were a betting man, that his proposals are simply not sustainable for the economy.
Well, a recent poll by ABC News and Washington Post finds that people favor the president's plan to the Republicans 2-1. So why aren't Democrats screaming that from the rooftops?
Well, we should be, but we simply don't have the numbers in the House of Representatives. The Senate has already passed this thing. They're just waiting on us. And hopefully some of my Republican colleagues will be free enough to switch over.
All right, you mentioned if you were a betting man. So if you are a betting man, when the clock strikes midnight on New Year's Eve, do we have a deal?
I think we'll have something.
A deal?
Listen.
Or falling off the edge?
Eric Cantor and Speaker Boehner told us to keep our schedules clear until Christmas Eve.
Okay.
And I don't think they want to be here until Christmas Eve. The Republicans don't want to be here in D.C. until Christmas Eve. We don't. My wife doesn't want me in D.C. until Christmas Eve. So we have to come to a solution. I think we will.
All right, Congressman André Carson, stay with us. We have more to talk about. After the break, we are coming back with a congressman to talk about last month's elections and a very special award to a school in his district. The 7th District of Indiana, Representative André Carson. So you were reelected to the House once again by a pretty wide margin, but there are a lot of changes to those heading to Washington from Indiana. What do you take away from Hoosier voters this year?
I think Hoosier voters have made a clear statement, and that statement is that they're willing to cross parties and even scratch for other candidates, as we've seen with my race, where Republicans have voted for me, independents have voted for me, and libertarians. They're tired of party politics. They want change. They want people who are bold. They may not agree with me all the time, but they want someone who's bold and who's going to fight on their behalf, and that's Carson.
Why do you think that is, that you seem to attract people from both sides?
Well, I like to see myself as...
Not to make you brag about yourself.
No, well, vanity, no. I try to be pragmatic. I try to listen to both sides of the argument. I'm a proud progressive, but I'm also a member of the New Democrats. We tend to be fiscally conscious or conservative in some areas. And so those are my friends who are Republicans. We can agree on a lot of things. I think I'm strong in many areas in defense, though I think we should scale back our war efforts. But there are some things that are pretty universal to all Hoosiers, and I represent those values.
Someone that so many Hoosiers enjoyed, Senator Lugar.
Oh, a legend.
Yeah,
yes.
A legend. He delivered his farewell address this week. What are your thoughts on his departure?
A great loss. I wish that he were able to leave on his own terms, but we have my dear friend Joe Donnelly. I'm excited about that. But Senator Lugar is certainly a statesman. He's well-versed in foreign affairs. He is our resident scholar, just like in the vein of a Lee Hamilton or an Andy Jacobs. And so it's a huge loss for the state in terms of senatorial representation, but it's a gain for our universities and colleges.
Yeah, that's right. His plans post his retirement.
His retirement,
I use
that's
post
right.
because he's not really sitting back.
No.
Do you have a favorite memory, something you'll always remember about him?
You know, I had a chance when I first got to Congress. There were some constituents who were calling us, and we were unable to manage the volume of calls, and so he very graciously sat down with me and our staff, and we were able to kind of replicate some of his efforts. Yeah.
Right now I want to talk about something probably dear to you. One of the schools in our area is receiving a significant award in the Race to the Top program. Tell us about this.
1 out of 16 across the country, they were awarded with over $20 million. And it just shows, when you're innovative, when you're willing to meet the various needs of students, you shall be rewarded. I think our outdated educational model has held us back. We rank, I think, 39th in terms of science, technology, engineering, and math throughout the globe. It's embarrassing. What they're doing in Warren Township is innovative, and I think it's a model for all Americans to follow, especially in the educational realm.
So what exactly is this Race to the Top program, and how is it working?
Well, it's a model that was created by President Obama. Secretary Duncan, Education Secretary Duncan, has championed this issue, and it basically rewards schools who have shown innovative practices in their different districts and cities and states. I know Indiana applied several times, and we didn't get the award because I think our presentation was too operationally based. But what they're doing in Warren Township deals critically with pedagogy. Most of us are visual learners. Some of us are auditory learners. Some of us are kinesthetic. We like to feel and touch things. What they're doing in Warren Township reflects those ideals and that kind of vision. And the Department of Ed said, hey, you guys have the right vision.
Great to see that, and great to see you here. I know you're busy. Thank you so much for your time.
What an honor.
Congressman Carson, thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us.
Thank you, Jen.